What happens when two powerhouse women clash on daytime television in a way nobody saw coming? Today, we're breaking down the explosive moment that had everyone talking, when Zoe Saldana sat down with Kelly Clarkson and things went from friendly to fierce in a matter of minutes. This wasn't your typical celebrity interview. This was something else entirely. Before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me your thoughts as we go through this wild story. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this plays out. So, the interview started off like any other. Kelly welcomed Zoe onto the stage with her signature warmth and enthusiasm. The audience was excited, the energy was high, and everything seemed perfectly normal. Kelly started with the usual pleasantries, asking Zoe about her latest projects and how she's been managing her incredibly busy schedule. Zoe responded graciously, talking about balancing her career with family life, and the two seemed to have an easy rapport going. But then Kelly shifted gears. "You know, Zoe, I've been wanting to ask you something," Kelly said, leaning forward in her chair with that curious expression she gets. "There's been a lot of conversation online about representation in Hollywood, and you've been at the center of some of those discussions. How do you respond to critics who say you've taken roles that should have gone to other actresses?" You could feel the temperature in the room change immediately. Zoe's smile didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. She took a breath before responding. "Kelly, I think that's a really complex question that deserves more than a soundbite answer. I've always approached my career with integrity, and I've never taken a role with the intention of taking anything away from anyone." Kelly nodded but pressed on. "Sure, but you understand why some people feel a certain way about it, right? I mean, there have been some pretty vocal opinions, especially on social media." "Social media opinions don't always reflect reality," Zoe replied, her voice remaining calm but with an edge creeping in. "I've spent my entire career working hard, auditioning, proving myself. I don't think it's fair to reduce that to some narrative that I'm somehow taking opportunities from others." "I'm not trying to reduce anything," Kelly said, raising her hand slightly. "I'm just asking the question that a lot of people want answered. This show is about having real conversations." "Real conversations require context," Zoe shot back, "and what you're doing right now feels less like a conversation and more like an interrogation based on internet gossip." The audience was dead silent now. You could see Kelly's expression shift from friendly curiosity to something more defensive. "Zoe, I have to say I'm a little surprised by your reaction. These are legitimate questions that people are asking." "People ask a lot of questions," Zoe said. "That doesn't make all of them worth answering in the way you're framing them. You're starting from a premise that I've done something wrong, and I don't accept that premise." Kelly sat back in her chair, clearly not expecting this level of pushback. "I'm not saying you've done anything wrong. I'm trying to give you a platform to address these criticisms by repeating them as if they're facts." Zoe's voice was rising now, though she was maintaining her composure. "Kelly, you have one of the biggest platforms in daytime television. When you ask questions like that, framed the way you just framed them, you're not being neutral. You're taking a side." "I am absolutely not taking a side," Kelly insisted, and you could hear the frustration entering her voice. "I'm a journalist. I ask tough questions. That's my job." Zoe let out a short laugh that had no humor in it. "A journalist, Kelly? This is a talk show. You have musical guests and you play games with celebrities. Let's not pretend this is 60 Minutes. That hit a nerve. Kelly's face flushed and she sat up straighter. "Excuse me? I have won multiple awards for this show. I take my work very seriously, and I don't appreciate you diminishing what we do here." "I'm not diminishing anything," Zoe said. "I'm pointing out that you invited me here under the pretense of a friendly interview, and instead you ambushed me with loaded questions designed to make me defend myself against accusations I don't even agree are valid." Kelly's jaw tightened. "Nobody ambushed you. This is how interviews work. Guests get asked questions. If you didn't want to answer questions, maybe you shouldn't have agreed to come on the show." "Maybe I shouldn't have," Zoe agreed, and the audience gasped. "Maybe I should have known better than to expect a respectful conversation instead of clickbait controversy." Kelly's voice went up an octave. "Are you seriously suggesting that I would manufacture drama for ratings?" "I'm suggesting that you knew exactly what you were doing when you asked that question," Zoe said evenly, "and we both know that controversial moments get views. So yeah, Kelly, I think you were fishing for exactly this kind of reaction." Kelly stood up from her chair, which almost never happens during an interview. You know what, Zoe? I have built this show on authenticity and real conversations. I don't manufacture anything. The fact that you're getting so defensive tells me that maybe there's some truth to what people are saying. Zoe stood up, matching Kelly's energy. Defensive? I'm not being defensive. I'm being honest. There's a difference. And the fact that you're interpreting my refusal to accept your framing as defensiveness is exactly the problem. The problem, Kelly said, her voice tight, is that you came on my show and you're attacking me for doing my job. Your job is to make your guests feel ambushed and attacked, Zoe countered, because that's what this feels like. I've done hundreds of interviews, Kelly. I know the difference between a tough question and a setup. A setup? Are you hearing yourself right now? You're on my show accusing me of setting you up when all I did was ask you about something that is very much in the public conversation. You didn't just ask me about it, Zoe said, her voice firm. You asked me how I respond to critics who say I took roles from other actresses. That's not a neutral question. That's you giving credibility to a narrative and asking me to defend myself against it. Because people want to hear your side, Kelly argued. That's what interviews are for, to hear directly from the person at the center of the conversation. Zoe shook her head. No. If you wanted to hear my side, you would have asked me about my career, my choices, my perspective. Instead, you led with what other people think and asked me to react to their opinions. That's not giving me a platform. That's putting me on trial. The audience was shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Some were looking at each other. Others had their phones out, clearly recording what was happening. Kelly noticed this, and it seemed to make her even more agitated. You know what? I think you're being incredibly unfair right now. I have always been supportive of diverse voices in entertainment, always. And for you to stand here and suggest that I have some kind of agenda is insulting. I never said you had an agenda, Zoe clarified, though her tone was still sharp. I said you asked a loaded question. Those are two different things. A loaded question, Kelly repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Right, so asking about something that has been widely discussed in the media is now considered loaded? Got it. When you frame it the way you did, yes, Zoe insisted. Words matter, Kelly. The way you phrase a question matters, and you know that. You're a professional. You've been doing this for years, so don't stand there and pretend you don't understand the difference between a fair question and one designed to provoke. Kelly threw her hands up. Designed to provoke? I can't believe this. I invited you here to have a conversation, and you're turning this into some kind of conspiracy theory where I'm out to get you. I'm not saying you're out to get me, Zoe said, her patience wearing thin. I'm saying you asked me a disrespectful question. When I called you out on it, instead of acknowledging it, you doubled down and got defensive. I got defensive? Kelly laughed incredulously. Zoe, you've been on the attack since I asked the question. Every single thing you've said has been combative, because you put me in a position where I had to be. Zoe fired back. You think I wanted to come on your show and have this argument? You think this is fun for me? I came here expecting a pleasant interview, maybe talk about my work, share some stories, connect with your audience. Instead, you decided to go for controversy. Kelly's eyes flashed. You keep saying that, but you have no proof that I wanted controversy. You're projecting. Am I? Zoe challenged. Then why didn't you ask me about my upcoming projects first? Why didn't you ease into the conversation? Why was that your opening topic after the pleasantries? Kelly faltered for just a second. Because it's relevant, because it's what people are talking about. It's what some people on Twitter are talking about, Zoe corrected, and you decided that that's more important than treating me with basic respect and courtesy. Don't you dare suggest I didn't treat you with respect, Kelly said, her voice rising. I have been nothing but professional. Professional would have been asking me thoughtful questions. Professional would have been giving me a chance to talk about my work without immediately putting me on the defensive. Professional would have been recognizing that I'm a human being, not just content for your show. The band leader was looking nervously at the producers off stage. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every moment of this increasingly heated exchange. Kelly noticed this, and it seemed to make her even more agitated. You know what? I think you're being incredibly unfair right now. I have always been supportive of diverse voices in entertainment, always. And for you to stand here and suggest that I have some kind of agenda is insulting. I never said you had an agenda, Zoe clarified, though her tone was still sharp. I said you asked a loaded question. Those are two different things.
A loaded question, Kelly repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Right, so asking about something that has been widely discussed in the media is now considered loaded? Got it. When you frame it the way you did, yes, Zoe insisted. Words matter, Kelly. The way you phrase a question matters. And you know that. You're a professional. You've been doing this for years. So don't stand there and pretend you don't understand the difference between a fair question and one designed to provoke. Kelly threw her hands up. Designed to provoke? I can't believe this. I invited you here to have a conversation, and you're turning this into some kind of conspiracy theory where I'm out to get you. I'm not saying you're out to get me, Zoe said, her patience wearing thin. I'm saying you asked me a disrespectful question. When I called you out on it, instead of acknowledging it, you doubled down and got defensive. I got defensive? Kelly laughed incredulously. Zoe, you've been on the attack since I asked the question. Every single thing you said has been combative, because you put me in a position where I had to be. Zoe fired back. You think I wanted to come on your show and have this argument? You think this is fun for me? I came here expecting a